what would you say? We know what the politicians' assessment is for taxes. They always want more. What do your finger on the pulse of the people? Do you think people are used to paying the taxes they pay now, and this is just normal and it's all good, and maybe a little more is not a huge deal? Or do you think people are over it, we're sick of it, and we want more of our money? What do you say most people, not conservatives like you and me, but most people are?
Here's the good news. I've been working for the last several years in about 10 to 15 different states, all of which are moving first the personal income tax to a single rate tax, and then they're marching it down to zero. Kentucky's voted a 10-year plan to zero. North Carolina's been phasing down for 12 years. They will be at zero corporate and individual income tax very soon. You're looking at Minnesota, just phasing down to zero. Arizona took it from 4.5 top rate to 2.5 flat rate tax. Then they're going to zero. North Dakota is going to 1.5% and then to zero. West Virginia is cutting at 21% and then keep going until they get rid of the income tax forward. I was just talking to the folks in Ohio. I talked to the Republican caucus in the House. They're going to a single rate tax and then phase down towards zero in Ohio. Illinois, Indiana, which has a low single rate tax, they're taking theirs down as well. Iowa, 8.5% top rate, 0.6% top rate. 4 years from now, it'll be 3.9 single rate tax, and then they're going to zero. New Hampshire will be at zero it may be this year, maybe in 3 years, but it's at least automatically done in 3. They may be speeding that up. So, South Carolina's made a commitment. They're on the way to zero. So we're doing very, very well. States, red governors, state legislators are on the move to zero. And we're going to now have not just the 8 states with no income tax, but we'll have 20 plus states in the next 15 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, the argument that Gavin Newsom would say is, sure, but Texas has higher property taxes than we do. Or they'll make it up some other way. And that's why Gavin Newsom says that actually you pay more taxes if you live in Texas than California.
That's nonsense. And people leave California to go to Texas and they explain it's because of the taxes. But take 2 states that are roughly the same size. New York, 20 million people, Florida, 22. The Florida budget this year will be $110 billion. The New York budget's about $240 billion, twice as big, okay? So New York spends twice as much, New York State spends twice as much money as Florida State. You don't need an income tax. What do they get in New York? Yeah. Schools aren't better, roads aren't better, nothing's better in New York. What is different is they have more government employees, they're much better paid than the private sector, and their pensions are through the roof. Florida doesn't do that, and it saves $100 billion, so you don't need an income tax, and you don't need to shift it to something else, because it's $100 billion you're not stealing each year. That's a lot of opportunity to leave people alone.
Grover Norquist, president of the Wonderful Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, keep up the wonderful work, sir.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Hey, thanks for watching that clip. We covered a ton in our Taxed to Death special. We talked about what taxes were in the beginning of our country, how people were taxed. It's much more moral and appropriate and fair and proper than the beginning, the genesis of the income tax in 1913. We had to have a constitutional amendment. So where did that all come from? And then the future of taxing. California, they want to pass a wealth tax and tax you when you leave the state. What is going on here? How different from our founding fathers' vision? That's all available on thefirsttv.com and the First TV app, a free download right now. The special is called Taxed to Death.